news has broke on the day of this recording that Diego Maradona has sadly passed away. For a lot of people, he is the greatest player to have ever kicked the ball, and even if he doesn't take, say, your number one spot in that regard, he's certainly in and around that area. You can't have that conversation without mentioning Maradona at all. So we thought it would be nice just to, have a little bit of a discussion, a little chat, a little tribute to the genius that was Diego Maradona. I think for me, one of the greatest things, obviously outside of the World Cup, was the Serie A titles with Napoli. Like, Napoli were nothing really in terms of like the size of the club at that point. It would be effectively like, almost in a modern day comparison, I would kind of describe it as, say a Messi or a Ronaldo went to somewhere like, I don't know, Burnley had
Stoke.
Stoke. Or like, Burnley had been really poor. Burnley had been really poor this year, obviously, but normally they're around
Stoke
mid-table.
is the Napoli of the North. Hear it here first, guys.
And yeah, it would affect, in modern day, it would be a bit like someone like Messi or Ronaldo going to a Burnley, someone like that, and then, or a Crystal Palace, and then leading them to a league title. That is the impact that Diego Maradona had on Napoli, from a club perspective. And, you're talking, of course, I know that he came from a very, humble background, like very poor. Basically, all he did was just play football when he was a kid. And look at where it led him overall, just the incredible career that he had. As I do think, for me, the biggest thing, it's the World Cup, obviously, and arguably the two most famous moments of his career came in that one game against England. Obviously, you had the handball, the hand of God, which obviously rightly caused a storm amongst the English players. At the end of the game, Bobby Robson was basically not letting the English players swap shirts with them because, they cheated and whatever. But then in that second half of that game, you then get the incredible solo goal from Maradona.
That was voted the goal of the century. I think that
it was voted the official goal of the 20th century. Yeah,
and for me, I hope
it's kind of nuts.
I hope people remember that goal more than the hand of God goal. From an English point of view, it's so easy to vilify Maradona. But I was saying before, we were watching the news just before we came on. I was watching with my family, and I just said, if an English player had done that and won us the World Cup, I would call him a hero. I have absolutely no issue with him doing that. It's not a good look, and you feel aggrieved because you're on the other side of it. But if it's your player, I'm saying absolutely done. Fantastic, mate. Do that again if you can.
No, I know what you mean. It's certainly not sporting, and obviously, as you said, being on the receiving end of it is shit. Let's be real about that. Again, if you're on the opposition side of that, you're probably just going to want to snap him in half. Let's be honest. But as you said, if you reversed it, if that was Gary Lineker at the other end of the pitch, you'd be calling him a hero. So it works both ways for sure. That goal.
And that's what I mean. I hope people remember the second goal because that was Maradona. That was him as a player. Ghosting.
I think both of them kind of. I think both of them kind of.
I think both of them are a bit quintessential of him. Yeah,
it's kind of the hot. Yeah, he was a very streetwise player, wasn't he? Obviously coming from those. Poverty beginnings, as you mentioned. Yeah. He was not afraid to get stuck in, throw his weight around, get some decisions that maybe he shouldn't have done. But I just love watching that second goal. You watch it again and again, and he's walking past international players like they're not even there. It goes around the goalkeeper and just puts it in, and it looks so effortless. It's beautiful. It's great to watch.
And
I think it was.
And you're right.
I think a great quote that sums it up for me was I think it was Michel Platini. He basically said, "What he could do with a football, Maradona could do with an orange." And Michel Platini was an incredible footballer. Let's ignore the UEFA corruption thing and talk about from Michel Platini again. He's up there as one of the greats. And for someone of that caliber to say that about Maradona, it's just that really does show you the kind of player that he is. Obviously, anyone that played in that generation, pretty much unanimously, anyone that played in that generation that played against him, that they all say that he was the best that they came across. They all say it.
Yeah, and I think it's also really important to mark that he, in a weird sort of way, solidified Argentina's place on the stage of world football. You know, if you look at, you know, what he did for the national team, he was an instrumental part of not only them competing but also winning it.
Yeah, they don't win that World Cup without him in '86.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about
it. And moreover than that, you know, I think also if you speak to anyone in Argentina, you know, or speak to the players that have come out of Argentina since then, you know, you're talking about world-class players. You know, they will always talk about Maradona growing up.
Definitely.
So he has a legacy that will go on past just you know, what he did on the football pitch, but also what he did for Argentina as a country, and really just elevating to the point that do you think, when we talk about big footballing nations, they're one of the big footballing nations we talk about.
They are. Well, do you think, because obviously you talk about the kind of impact that he had on Argentina as a whole, and obviously over there he is God, basically.
God.
But do you think that, because obviously when Lionel Messi came through the Barcelona academy, and obviously, you know, when he was very young, he did have the opportunity to play for Spain because of how long he'd been in the country. Do you think that maybe, I mean, obviously it really depends on how patriotic Messi feels as an Argentinian, but do you feel that maybe Maradona and what he achieved for Argentina had an impact on Lionel Messi to make Messi go, no, I'm Argentinian and I want to try to, you know, replicate what he did with my side?
I'm not sure if that. I mean,
it's pure speculation, of course. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you speak to, or I watched a really interesting documentary about Messi and him growing up, and when you interview people about Messi, people in Argentina, often the thing you hear is, yeah, he's a great player, and we're really proud of the player that he is. But he's not Maradona, because what has he done? Because the thing people will say is, what has he done for Argentina? Well, you know, you could argue he carried you to a World Cup final, but there's always that argument. And I think for Messi, I think he was always Argentinian. But you're absolutely right. I think Maradona almost laid part of the groundwork and the framework to make him want to be part of such a great footballing nation. So yeah, no. Absolute baller.
I think you can see a lot of similarities between Messi and Maradona when you look at them. The way they kind of run with
definitely,
the ball,
yeah,
the way that kind of he moves and he drifts one way. I mean, I remember he scored a goal very early in his career. I think it was against Getafe, which when you watch it, is almost the spitting image of Maradona's goal against England. He takes it on halfway,
exactly.
I mean, the goalkeeper and into the net, and you can see
let's
the impact
be real,
Maradona has.
Messi has grown up watching Maradona. Really,
I was going to say, in the playground, he'll be going, "I'm Maradona." Yeah. I'm scoring all these goals. Look at me, I'm Maradona. That's like we would do with players of our generation. Like, oh, I'm kind of Rooney or whoever. That's what Messi would have been doing. He would have watched Maradona and based his game probably on what he did. And if that's his legacy, then that's an outstanding legacy to have.
Definitely. I mean, of course, you know, we did talk about, you know, both sides to Maradona. You know, the great stuff and also the, you know, not so great stuff. You know, I think that goal in '94 at the World Cup kind of typifies that almost, because you know, he'd been out of shape and obviously had been abusing substances before that World Cup, and then he'd seemingly got himself back on track, you know, back at his best, and he scores that incredible goal, and then the celebration, the screaming into the camera, it's just, even watching it now, it's really eerie. Like, and unsurprisingly, after that goal, he was immediately drug tested and then fouled, and that was his you know, international career effectively over. And obviously these kind of things, they obviously, you know, played a part in his career later in life. But you know, just such a, again, in terms of an enigma, I really don't. Obviously, you know, you talk about characters like Gaza and things and stuff like that, but I really don't think that you get, you know, such polar opposites in terms of a personality, in terms of obviously the genius of a footballer, and then the erratic, almost self-destructive behaviour that almost fueled that at the same time. And you know, that erratic nature is also part of the reason why he is so revered, or even still to this day.
Do you know what it is? And this is going to be very philosophical. In a generation of footballers where people are, raised and everything's very official and it's done in a certain way. He's from a generation of footballers that will have a fag before the game, do a couple lines before the game and after the game and at halftime, and go get in a fight. And that, I think, is what we all miss a little bit about modern day football, in that just doesn't happen because, or it at least in top flight World Cup games, it doesn't happen as much because the game's been so professionalized. We talk about players being professional.
Yeah, definitely.
Arguably, Maradona's the furthest thing from being professional, but that's why we love him, because he is impure, he is unfiltered, he doesn't give a shit. He was dancing with people on the balcony at the World Cup 4 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. There's quite a lot of cocaine smeared on that glass as well. I'm just going to throw that out there. But
a lot of cocaine.
Go to that. I mean, you hope that people remember him more for the player he was than what happened afterwards. I mean, when I was saying earlier, we were speaking just before we started recording, and I said, when I heard the news, I was shocked but not surprised that this had happened.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's one of those. It's a sad story. He's only 60 years of age, which is no age at all these days, but
no,
it looked like it was waiting to happen, didn't it, when you saw him recently?
Yeah, definitely. It is what it is, and it is a tragedy, really. But as you said, it's not, given the lifestyle and everything, as you said, it's not really a surprise. But small consolation that it is, I do kind of feel like he got, in the 60 years he was on the planet, I feel like he got every little bit out of it that he could have done.
He lived.
Every single little bit.
He did everything. Absolutely. Do you know he was a boxer at one point?
That doesn't surprise me.
I'm learning all this stuff on Twitter. He was he did boxing, not for very long, but he did do boxing apparently.
Good old.
I'm just going because.
Well, I mean, because in the 2010 World Cup, he was manager, and for me, I mean, the thought process behind the equivalent of the Argentinian FA, that kind of blows my mind a little bit. Like, Maradona is many things, but I don't think manager is quite the thing. But even then, like the footballing drills and stuff like that, I feel like they'd end every training session with the players having to line up in the goal and all the coaching staff just booting balls at them to end the training session. And I'm like, you're the manager of a national football team here. Like, so you're just bonkers, just absolutely bonkers. And another great thing that he said that when he was interviewed in the 2010 World Cup, the interviewer said to him, are your players going to be allowed to, see their girlfriends and that kind of thing? And he said, oh yeah, no, they can sleep with whoever they want, but she has to be the one doing all the work. My players can't get tired through this, which just brilliant, absolutely brilliant stuff.
On that bombshell.
Absolutely.
Yeah, on that bombshell, that is our
rest in peace, Maradona.
Tribute to the great late Diego Maradona. That's the final whistle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Midtable and Up podcast. If you enjoy our top 10 lists, please make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Let us know what you would have done differently. If you watch this episode on YouTube, make sure to put your foot through that subscribe button and leave a like on the video, as well as follow us on Spotify and the podcasts app to keep up to date with the series. Thank you very much. See you next time.